Hey everybody, this is Grim. I am doing an audio check. Let me know in chat if you can hear me okay. It's been a while since I've had this running, so I'd love to know if everything is working okay. Valis says sounds good. Okay, give me another minute or two and I will be on cam. Thanks everyone. All right. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you can hear me okay. Let me know if I am not coming through. How's everybody doing? I see we got some people over on Twitch, some people on the YouTube hanging out with us. See, we got a lot of old Star Jump community people hanging out with us tonight. I saw Starlet in the chat. So hello, Starlet. Valisaw, thank you for the follow. You just sent the javelin overhead, and I had another follow earlier, right? Taboon. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Thank you for that follow. Appreciate it. Valisoff, thank you so much. It has been a while, so you are catching me live. I will give an update on why I have not been around. There's some good reasons for that. I see our good friend Bingo is in chat. Bingo, I hope to see you in June. That would be really cool. Um, so hope everyone is well. If you're wondering why I'm streaming at all, it's because I've actually had a lot of really interesting conversations with people lately, directly in relation to Star Citizen things that have been happening to the game. I'm sure it doesn't take much for you to guess what those are. Events. And actually, one second here before I go any further, I gotta find where's my Star Jump main theme music for the background. All right, that'll be in the background. Okay. From some of the stuff with master modes, some of the stuff with the Idris event, some of the stuff with some of the discussions surrounding 323 and just a whole bunch of other stuff. So some people have been asking me about them in DMs, and other content creators have reached out to me asking me about some of them. And honestly, Griffin Gaming just gifted 5 tier 1 subs to Lazarus. And let's see here. Oops, stand by. To Kavotha, Dex, Arcane, Grignardian, and Laz. Griff, thank you so much, buddy. Salute to you. I hope you are well. It's been a while since I've talked to you. Again, I'll give an update on where I've been and what I've been doing. My windows are kind of a mess right now. So, Griffin Gaming RPG, Griff, thank you so much. For those of you that don't know Griff, you probably all do. Griffin Gaming is over on Soul Citizens, leads that amazing community. They do excellent content. Check them out. Soul Citizens on Twitch. Definitely follow them. You should already be following them. They do just absolutely great content. One of the best things about their content too is they do not just rehash the news every week that CIG is putting out. They put their own spin on it. They do dedicated shows on really niche topics sometimes that they deep dive, which is really cool. They review community content such as machinima, all kinds of cool stuff. Please go support them. All right. So, I see VMXEO's in chat. VM, hope you're well. VM was doing some really cool stuff for me today. So, where have I been? Well, the truth of the matter is I've been busy with life. Obviously, we took off some time at the end of the year. I did the big IAE streams. A lot of you came and hung out with that. Come out and hung out with me during that event. It was really cool. We came off the rush of CitizenCon last year, all this great news surrounding the game. Then we went to the holidays. I was doing a lot of traveling, decided to go dark for a month. And then as soon as January hit, we unfortunately had some very, very serious medical issues with my wife's father. That took all of our attention, and rightfully so, obviously. So we were dealing with that. That went through January and into February a little bit. And then on top of that, for some reason, we decided on February 1st to get a new puppy, which we did. And I must have forgot that puppies are like babies, and it's like having a brand new baby. So if you see the bags under the eyes, it's because of lack of sleep. So there's just been a lot going on. My daughter's in a lot of extracurricular activities, and just other things. But suffice it to say, I am still alive. I am here. Yes, the needle. Yes, Palace. I've got bite marks all over my hands. It's pretty rough. Those of you may have that follow my Twitter or the Star Jump Twitter X account, whatever you want to call it, may have noticed that I posted a Banu Merchantman shot and said new content is coming. That is not that's totally true. It wasn't a lie. I have I have 2 Star Jump Shipyard episodes on the way. One of them is coming very soon, and the other one's coming a little bit after that. The one that's coming very soon is on the Banu Merchantman. It's actually already done and has been done for a while. The only thing is it had some audio issues, so I had to re-record the VO, and I'm just laying that in. But the edit has been done for months and months and stuff like that. The other episode on the for Starjump Shipyard, it's being worked on, but it hasn't been edited, so it's still early on in the hopper. That may be something Ender can help me out with. But the Banu Merchantman episode is very close. All kinds of new visuals with it. I did a whole bunch of Banu Merchantman renders and cool stuff. You're really going to dig it. If you like the previous episodes, the Kraken, Crucible, Endeavor episodes, you'll really dig this one. I tried to do the same with this one. I tried to do new visuals to support the information, not just show the concept artwork and all that stuff that you've all seen 1,000 times. I tried to do stuff in a way to visualize the ship in a way you haven't seen before. So that being said, what else is going on? So yes, working on that. We are working on and I'm going to get some stuff so you can see. Let me pull that up. So I have been hard at work, and so has VMXEO and soon to be Starlet, who are both in chat. We have been working on some Fleet Viewer updates. They are updates to ships that are already in Fleet Viewer, but we wanted to do a pass on them to bring their quality standards up in some situations. If they were a concept ship, just to elevate their visual look to make them feel a little bit more realistic. And in the case of flight ready ships, converting them from my pipeline to the Starfab pipeline, which is VMXEO in chat oversees that, which brings their visual quality up to game level visual quality, so it looks exactly like the ship that you see in game. Okay, we're obviously getting our promotions coming in here. We're going to go ahead and remove that. Stand by, everyone. Let's see. Okay, stand by. Okay, cool. There it goes. Anyway, so it was actually going to only be a few ships. But now it's quite a few ships that we are updating. Just off the top of my head, we updated the Avengers series, the 100 series, the 300 series, the Drake Kraken. Those are all going to be updated. We also updated, from a concept ship standpoint, I updated the Galaxy, and I'm updating the Pioneer. If y'all are interested, I can show you what some of those updates look like. They're not in Fleet Viewer yet. We're going to probably push this update sometime early next week. The reason we're waiting for early next week is the rumor mill's a churning, and it looks like we could be getting possibly the F7A Mark II and into the game as soon as this weekend. We don't totally know. So if that's the case, we will obviously be ready with that, integrating whatever this F7A ship ends up being. But I can give you a preview if you're interested in seeing it, to kind of show you the visual quality difference I'm talking about here. So let me switch over to here. Let me bring this over. Can y'all stand by, everyone? Stand by. Let's see if I can do this right. Just a minute. How's everyone doing, by the way? Hopefully everybody is doing well. Let's see here. Okay. There gives you an idea of some of the updates we're doing. On the left is the current Pioneer in Starjump Fleet Viewer. And on the right is the updated Pioneer model that will be going in as soon as, again, early next week. I wanted to get the redo of it much closer to the original concept artwork, so you can kind of see that here. I'll give you another cool example. Just a second, let me bring it up. again, we're always sort of iterating on what we've done in Fleet Viewer, and if it looks like there's a place we can make a change that really elevates a ship or gets it closer to what CIG has shown, we will try to do that. If we can show the in-game model over one of my pipeline models, then we will always try to do that as well. So for example, here is our original Kraken, right? Here's our original Kraken. Not terrible, you know, gets the job done, right? But here is our new Kraken. I think you'll agree. It's a pretty massive step up. There's our new Kraken model. Or guess I should say render. It's just a different render, different textures. But you can kind of see why we're doing it. It elevates the visuals of the ship, brings it in more in line, a little bit closer to the in-game model. Sometimes it's texture differences. Sometimes it's just, you know, visual differences that do affect how the ship looks overall. Some of the stuff is material, but sometimes it's things like on the Kraken here, on the in-game version from Starfab, you can see like the landing pad lines and stuff a lot better. So stand by, everyone. Okay. So yes, working on that. Again, VMXEO help export these new Kraken images. He's also put a lot of work into some other images. Again, like I said, 100 series, 300 series, Avenger series. I did new Galaxy renders. I had some people complain that the Galaxy in Fleet Viewer did not look like the Galaxy that they see in CIG's concept art. I honestly agreed with them, and it was because of some liberties I took with how the lights were set up. So I threw all that away, redid the ship. I think the new Galaxy, it's not perfect, but it looks a lot closer to the concept art in the game, the concept art that CIG has released. So again, there's the Pioneer model. You can kind of see how that's evolved and how I think it looks a lot more accurate. So working on that. That is coming. It won't be too long before we get those in. We're just waiting to see if the F7A stuff happens this weekend. And if it does, we'll be ready for it. VMXEO will be on it quickly. And then I'll package it all up. We send it over to Starlet, who's also in chat, I think, on the YouTube side of things. And Starlet will push it all into Fleet Viewer so that hopefully early next week, all the new stuff will be in there. So okay, so let's go into this. Before we move on to topics, I did want to kind of give everyone a little bit of a preview. Again, been doing a lot of work on the Banu Merchantman episode of Shipyard. Again, the visuals were done last year. And they look pretty decent. I can kind of show you what that looks like too. I'll give you a little preview of what some of that looks like. Here's one of the renders here. I'll just have it loop here while I'm talking. But Banu Merchantman episode, a lot of work has gone into it. I'm aiming to get it out next week. Again, it's just getting the VO. I already have the new VO recorded. I just have to chop it up and get it laid in appropriately. But I do pretty in-depth cross sections of the Merchantman. We do all kinds of angle inspections. We go in depth on its role, in depth on where it came from, how the original concept for the ship started, and how it evolved into what you're seeing here. I have full renders of the original Banu Merchantman as well. They remember that original model, and we show how it's changed. It's obviously in some pretty significant ways. So again, put a lot of work into it. I'll try to get that out next week sometime, probably later in the week. And then the second episode of Shipyard, which I'll announce the ship that it's on. I might see if Ender can help me with some editing stuff on that one, and we'll try to push that one out not too long after. I am getting back to Star Jump Shipyard stuff. So yeah, thought I'd give you a little bit of preview there. Okay, what are we talking about? I had some notes here. Let me see if I can find them. Thank you all, appreciate it. So there's a couple topics going on right now. If you have opinions on this, feel free to post it in the chat. If you have a question you want to add or a point, I'll try to grab it. If it's a question, put question in capitals real big in brackets or something so I can see it, and I'll try to grab them. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, I was asked this originally a couple weeks ago when it happened. I had a lot of opinions on it then. I have a lot of opinions on it now, but that is the Idris, the capture the Idris event. Now, of course, every other streamer, content creator has already done their analysis of this event. I would have loved to have done that early on, but I also don't like just reacting off the cuff to stuff. I kind of like to think about it a little bit and see how it plays out over time. But my overall viewpoint on the capture the Idris event was that I think the intent was really good. I actually liked the idea of the event, and I think in kind of a naive world, that type of event would have been great and would have been something that would have been, made gaming news websites and stuff. If this had been Star Citizen 1.0 with systems in place, stable servers, persistence in the fact that people cared about their lives, they cared about their ships, all that kind of stuff. So for me, I thought great event, but not at this time in Star Citizen's life, not in this like alpha state version of the game. It would be a great event for Star Citizen 2 years from now, maybe, right? So it is. So that's kind of my overall. Starlet says, how awesome did you think the Idris interior was? So I watched a lot of videos of the Idris interior. I really dig it. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Starlet, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. Let me bring this up. Stand by, everyone. Starlet just reminded me of something. We were talking about new things coming to Fleet Viewer next week. Check this out. This is courtesy of VMXEO as well. And Fleet Viewer, you're going to get... We're going to have cutaways. How cool is that? We're going to have cutaways of the Idris interior. We're going to have multiple angles of that as well, so you can kind of explore it. We're going to have top downs of all decks. So you'll have a top down of A deck, top down of B deck, and so on and so forth. All that will be on StarJump Fleet Viewer. Big shout out to VMXEO in chat for going through the trouble of building that out. But I thought the Idris interior was really, really cool. The ship does feel pretty damn empty, and John Crew and Nathan Dearsley kind of addressed that on that Inside Star Citizen episode, where they kind of talked about how when they removed all the Squadron 42 clutter and decor and stuff like that, that it sort of made the ship feel a little sterile. I think that's still the case. And I think there's some rooms that maybe should be changed for the PU version of the ship, like the gym and stuff. It's Sir Berticus in the YouTube chat. Sir Berticus, hope you are well. Salute to you. I love the stuff you do on the Starliner. I had reached out to you one time to see if you wanted to collaborate on a Starliner video, but I don't know if I was contacting you the right way. I may have had the wrong contact. If you all haven't checked out Sir Berticus's Genesis Starliner stuff, it's really cool. Really, really cool. He's got some great videos on YouTube. As a matter of fact, do I have the standby? Yeah, go check out, if you haven't already, go check out Sir Berticus's channel over on YouTube. He's got some really cool Genesis Starliner videos. You definitely don't want to miss them. He definitely like thinks through a ship much like I do. like way too deeply. So it's a curse. But yeah, so I thought the Idris interior though looked great from a quality standpoint. It looks awesome. I love all the walkways. I really do like all the windows in the ship that not only look exterior but look into other adjoining rooms. I think that's really cool. I think that was done to great effect on the Anvil Carrack. I think that's one of its like standout things. It has the pass-through windows that go all the way through the ship. Now, funny point on that is with the Polaris now in development, I think it was on the most recent PU monthly report. They talk about how on the Polaris they have reached Lot Zero state on it for the exterior, which means they've got it to a very far place. It's past gray box now. And I thought that was interesting. And if you go through all the old Polaris documents, including the original jump point issue from like 2017, one of the back and forths that the directors or that the ship designers have, and CR chimes in on this if I remember correctly, is giving the Polaris some windows. And they end up doing that, like in the body of the ship. Not a lot of them, just a few of them. But they're really cool, and they're small, and they're, I think they color them gold in the early concept artwork. And this was a big deal in the communication between all the designers. They said, hey, add windows. Let's make sure we add windows, blah, 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 blah. Well, as the concept art goes through, though, you start seeing the windows disappear. And I always thought that was really unfortunate. I know it's a military ship, and a military ship shouldn't be adorned with windows, but these were pretty small and few and far between. But I really hope they haven't been removed. And it's one of the major reasons why I would love to see where, and I have a feeling we won't get this update until Invictus, but I would love to see what the Lot Zero exterior build of the Polaris looks like, because I'd love to see if they retain those windows. I have a feeling they lost them. But I would love to, I'd love if they kept at least a couple of them. But yeah, I think going back to the Idris, I think the thing that stood out to me, Starlet, I think asked this question originally, right? I think the thing that stood out to me primarily was the bridge area and the hangar area. The ship has definitely got one of the coolest bridges out there. The way you walk up into it as well. So from the back, it's got a stairway that goes up. It's also got two stairways that come off to the side and up into the bridge. And it feels like you're walking up and elevating into a proper capital ship bridge. The way the lighting, the control stations, the windows, the views, all that, I think they nailed it. The fact that you're looking out over the ship, again, they nailed it. I think the Javelin is going to have the same feel because it's got a very similar style bridge. And another ship that I think is going to have a bridge that feels epic like that will be the Kraken. And to a lesser degree, ships like the Galaxy and Perseus, but definitely the Kraken. Ultimately, I think the Kraken and Javelin will probably have the best bridges in Star Citizen. The reason I think that is that on the Javelin, where the bridge is situated, you'll be able to see all those guns firing, which will be really cool. And on the Kraken, you're overseeing the flight deck, so you're going to see ships coming and going, and that'll be really cool. Oh, yeah, you're right, Znurf. You are right. You got me on that one. The Pioneer. I would definitely put that one up there as probably one of the best bridges, like bridge layouts, and stuff. Yeah, good. Thank you for pointing that out. Sandgroper says, question, do you expect to see an Idris at Invictus we can walk around on? Stan, so I'm glad you brought that up. That, I think, leads into the next part of the Idris event thing. I think it was a huge misstep on CIG's part to not allow Idris owners a way to see the ship, whether that was through Arena Commander or being able to spawn it in a hangar but not be flyable, whatever. I do think it should have been done. I think part of the issue with the event was that it felt rushed and kind of thrown together. And I'm not saying it was. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they have been working on this event a while. But it felt thrown together. And it was yet another event that seemed to ignore the people who own the ship. They've done this before with the Mercury Star Runner. There was controversy around. So I think that was the number one misstep that they did with the event. And there was a lot of missteps with it, but that was the number one. Do I expect to see an Idris at Invictus? I think they definitely need to do that. I don't think they were planning on it personally, but I think they need to retroactively get that into Invictus. As a matter of fact, I think they could probably even open up the Javelin more as well. I think it's time to start showing us a little bit more of these ships in a way that the average player can see them. And here's a funny thing with that is that the owners should be able to get to see them. I fully think that. Remove, the white knighting or gray knighting or black knighting, any of this. If you spent money on real money on something in Star Citizen or for this project, I personally feel you should not be gated to experience it. I don't think it needs to be withheld for now. Evocati is something different. I do understand why Evocati is there, and I support the Evocati initiative. I'm not in it, but I support what that is. But I do think if they're going to bring something like the Idris to the live environment for players to pilot and experience, they need to think about the owners of the ship, the people that have paid money for it. Otherwise, I just think it's a bad look. So yes, I think they need to do that. I don't think they were planning on it, but I really hope they are now. It'd be a good way to win back some favor. The ship doesn't need to be done because I know they still apparently need to work out some stuff with the missile room. They probably need to do some more optimization on it for the PU. There's even some rooms I could see them changing, but they do need to get it in there. There's also a lot, the Javelin, there's a lot more of the interior of the Javelin that's finished than what we've seen in the Invictus tour. I have a render of the Javelin interior, a cutaway. It's not the full interior, but it's most the interior. I won't show it because I don't want to cross any lines with CIG. I don't know how out there that's supposed to be. I know in the past, I think Teller or someone had done a big cutaway of the Javelin and put it out there, but I'm not going to do that on this show. But the Javelin, I feel like they could open up a lot more of that interior, let us see it, let us tour it. And there's an add-on benefit to that because even people who don't own those ships, being able to tour them, check them out, I think is a good thing for the project. It restores confidence in us when we get to see stuff that's done, right? That is usually locked behind closed doors. Now this is definitely going to happen when Squadron 42 comes out. We're going to play it and we're going to go, holy hell, look at all this stuff they had built that we didn't know about. It's, blah, blah, blah. But specifically on the PU, I think we should start being able to see some of the stuff. It's time. Finger Sniffer, what a name. Question, do you think we'll see the Polaris released to live during Invictus? No, I do not. Another great question. I do not think it'll be going live at Invictus, and here's why. The monthly report for February, either January or February, whatever that monthly report was. Zarek, hope you're well. Hello. Stated that the interior had just finished its gray box review gate. That means the interior hasn't been lit. It hasn't been textured. That also means none of the downstream teams have touched this ship yet, i.e. audio, visual effects. We also don't know how the integration of certain things in the ship are going. For example, resource management, right? They have talked a little bit about, or I think I heard somewhere that they wanted the Polaris to have resource management fully integrated. I don't think there's any way in hell the Polaris is ready for Invictus, not at its current state. I think they're moving fast on it. Don't get me wrong. I think they're actually moving very fast on it. But I think the Polaris is later this year. I think it's a CitizenCon late quarter 3, early quarter 4 ship, personally. I wish it was Invictus. I own a Polaris, so I definitely wish it was Invictus. I just don't think it's possible. I really don't. Valisaw says, do you think we could get a snap to grid or other alignment features on Fleet Viewer for us OCD folk? A snap to grid, I don't know. I know it's been talked about some. I think we can. Are you talking about snap to grid and just in terms of moving the ships around that they would snap to some sort of grid, or are you talking about a different form of snap to grid? Obviously, we have the auto layout feature, which kind of does that. Yeah, like alignment. I don't know, to be honest with you. That's a great question. It's probably more of a Starlet question. Because of the system we're using to do Fleet Viewer, we're obviously limited on what we can do. I'm just not totally sure if that's a feature that can be easily implemented. And then deciding like how are we doing that alignment or something. It has been talked about. Thank you, Valis. Appreciate it. It's definitely something that has been talked about. You're not the only person that's brought up that. So it's. I want to say it's something we've just kind of kept in the we need to investigate this list. Starlet's in chat though. I think she's on the YouTube chat. She's probably seen your question there though, so you never know. She might start investigating it. She might say, hey, this is something we could implement pretty easy. Let's do some tests. Or she may come back and say, you know what, there's some technical issues that prevent it. So but yeah, let us look into it. Let's see here. That's pretty cool. Zarek, I haven't tried Helldivers yet, but I want to. Fingersurfer says, I was hoping the Polaris would be during ILW, then Galaxy for SitCon, and then Perseus for IE. Yeah, I don't think it's any. So it's funny you asked this, Finger. I was just talking to VMXEO about this earlier today. Funny enough, I just don't see it. I actually think a more realistic timeline is going to be Polaris for Q3, so SitCon. I think Galaxy by I could be wrong, by the way. I'm speculating. I do not have any inside information on this. Galaxy for like Q2 of next year, and Perseus soon after, maybe Q3, or with it Q2. I think, or maybe the way it'll go is Polaris into this year, Galaxy kind of into Q1, and Perseus more like Invictus next year. I could see something like that. Sir Berticus, thank you, man, for stopping by. Appreciate it. Love your content. Keep it up. Salute to you. I don't see any way. I don't see any way for them to get through those three big ships in that short a time. I really don't. Especially with the Polaris being a ship. Remember, as they're building the Polaris, they're building these assets as a toolkit too. So not only they're building a ship, they're building a toolkit for the other ships. And that building the toolkit takes a little bit of time too. So what I think that's going to mean ultimately for us is that the Polaris takes the amount of time that John Crew has always said that a capital ship is going to take, right? It's going to take that 2-year mark. And remember, they started the ship a while back. So a year and a half, whatever development that they're going to take for the Polaris. But what I think is that the Galaxy and the Perseus will be much faster to develop. Now, the caveat with the Galaxy is the modules. Now, obviously, they're making progress with the Retaliator. So, and the modules are coming along with that really well. So maybe that means I know they've said that the module issue has all been solved, but we still don't have a modular ship in the game. So the Retaliator's progress is going to tell us a lot about how the Galaxy is going to go. Let's see here, but no, I do think that the Galaxy and Perseus are next year. Personally, I wish that wasn't the case, but I do think that is the case. PS says, what is your opinion on the Idris's bridge emergency escape door? I don't know, PS. I have not been in the bridge section to check it out in detail, so I'm not 100% sure. I wish I could check it out. I wish I could check it out right now. Can't wait to see it. I don't know. Don't have an opinion on it yet. Kookaburr, hopefully I'm getting your name right. By the way, everyone, thank you for all the follows earlier. If you haven't followed my channel, please do. Really appreciate it. Again, I'm Graham from Starjump. Starjump is made up of 4 people: myself, Starjump Ender, Starlet, and VMXEO. Thank you, Finger Sniffer. Appreciate that. You just sent the javelin overhead. We're part of a group that tries to do unique Star Citizen content. We have been on the quieter side for about the last year. We do want that to change. We've all got pretty busy lives, though, and we're just trying to maintain that balance. But what I think you do get with Starjump stuff is we always try to bring you things in a way that you haven't seen before, right? Same thing like what we did with the Starjump Fleet Viewer. We tried to do it in a way that people hadn't seen before. So we're currently talking about the Idris, and we're talking about the Polaris. I'm going to bring those 2 ships up since we're talking about them. Okay, let's see here. Let's get back to our questions. Okay. Kookaburr says, Evocati is hard work. A lot of energy is put in there to help the development. People usually glamorize it because it's invitation only, but a lot of work is put there. Repost disc. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sometimes gets forgotten that Evocati is not always a fun experience. Yes, they get to experience some things early, but they're still slogging through some rough code sometimes. So hats off to them. And the work that they do. I know that they were just recently testing jump points. Very exciting. So Finger Sniffer hopes I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong too. I really do. Just based off past ship development and knowing some things about the Polaris, I do think I think we might get a very in-depth preview at a close to finish Polaris for Invictus, but I don't think the ship will go flight ready. That's what I'll say. Giddy says, hey Grim, do you know if the Galaxy base building module confirmed, or was that hearsay? I would call it confirmed at this point. And primarily that's because originally when the ship was sold, they said manufacturing module. They did mention that, even though the module wasn't for sale. But more specifically, during CitizenCon of last year, when Todd Pappy went on stage and talked about base building, he very specifically showed the Galaxy as the ship that you build large settlements on downward from. So it goes, the surveying tool, I think, is like the initial for like extra small, right? Or is it small? There's like a vehicle-based builder that's for medium. The Galaxy builds small or large bases, and then the Pioneer is extra large. So you could call that confirmed. They just haven't gone into what that module is fully going to do yet, but they've all but confirmed that the Galaxy will have a base building module. Stan Groper question, slightly off topic. Do you expect to see a new concept combat ship, Polaris size, released this year? What feature would set it apart from the torpedo-focused Polaris? Well, so I can tell you what, I don't know. I don't know. I think we will get we will definitely get a new concept ship at Invictus. It will be combat focused, but I don't know the size of it yet. I think CIG knows they got some big ships to trudge through already, and it remains to be seen if they want to throw another big one in the mix. Now, what I think would be really cool to see is CIG take one of the existing RSI ships, big ships, either the Polaris or probably better suited for the Galaxy or Perseus. And someone just gifted some subs. Stand by. Harley Quinn gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you, Harley Quinn. Appreciate it. You get the double salute. There's going to be a lot of Krakens flying overhead, so thank you for that. Harley Quinn, that was amazing. I hope you are well. Yes, I'm live. I know, getting back to it, but thank you so much. That's really killer of you to do that. I greatly appreciate it. Sending out those subs. Really, really, really appreciate it. Look at that Kraken flying by. I like to see that. Thank you again so much. That's great. So yeah, I think what would be exciting to see is if CIG took the Polaris, the Galaxy, or the Perseus, and did a variant of that ship. And that variant, I think what would be cool is, since it would be a large ship, let's say if it's the Galaxy, let's say they did a new module for the Galaxy or a variant of the Perseus that has a very large, like, QED, like a quantum enforcement device, like that can stop capital ships from going anywhere, and has a big range on it. I think that would be cool, sort of like a really large e-warship. And I think it would be cool if it was a variant of one of these ships, only because these are already in development. They're already going to be putting all this work into it. Why not do a variant of them? You'll get a whole new ship while cutting off half the work, because you're already going to be building it, right? So I think that would be really cool. Thank you again, Harley Quinn, for that, for those gifted subs. That is amazing. Let's see here. Someone asked something about yeah, a Goldie. I definitely think they'll show the Polaris at CitizenCon. Let's see here. Sorry. Kugabor says, question, do you plan to put the Idris K skin on the Idris K from Fleet Viewer? So it's a good question. So I'll be honest with you, I'm a little confused, and VMXEO might be as well. I think we're a little confused on what skin goes on what. This skin that you see here was listed as the Idris M skin, or the UEES Stanton, which is an Idris M. But we've also seen this skin on the Idris P, and then on the Idris M most recently in ISC, they showed like a black skin. So we don't really know what the right skins are, and the way CIG lists those in the game files is a little confusing. What I can tell you is, whenever the Idris M, the Idris K, and the Idris P do go flight ready, we will pull those game files and we will make sure the skins look accurate for what actually goes to the PU. Again, at this stage, we just do the best we can based off what's in the game files. Harley Quinn, it's great to see you too. Thank you so much again. Big double salute to you for that. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, everyone, if you are, let me bring it up here. Buckbra, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Sending the javelin overhead. For those that don't know, I don't know if you're in the Midwest or in the Columbus area, there is the Equinox event. It'll be this year. It's at June 1st, 2024 at COSI, which is the Center of Science and Industry Museum and Research here in Columbus, Ohio. They do a really big, like, bar citizen type event. I went with Ender 2 years ago. God, was it that long? I don't know. And it was a lot of fun. It's a much bigger event now. CIG staff usually goes. JRDF staff usually goes. I will be there. I will have a Star Jump booth. I'm going to have some really cool Star Jump swag that you can only get there. It's going to be really cool. I might have some people working the booth helping me. I think Bingo said he might. Either way, we'll be there. We'll have Star Jump shirts on. You'll know us. Come check us out. Come talk to us. Come hang out with us. All that good stuff. But I do plan on being there. It was a hell of a lot of fun last time, and I'd love to do it again. Last year, unfortunately, I missed it. But I already talked to Shadowcan, who puts this event on, and I've already got plugged in for it. My wife might even come and hang out, which will be really cool. So yes, if you're in the Midwest area or anywhere near Columbus on June 1st, go to their website. It's EQN. I'll just paste it in chat here. You have to buy a ticket to get in. Like I said, it's a pretty big event. They have contests. It's a giant LAN party. CIG is there. JRDF is there. I think Predator Mounts sponsored last year as well. It's usually a pretty big deal. But buy a ticket, go hang out. It's going to be awesome. It really is. It's going to be awesome. Okay. Let's get back to it here. Finger Sniffer says, I'll get back to some of the topics here real quick. Do you think we'll get 4.0 Pyro this year? Yeah, I do. I think we'll get those. I think it'll be Q3, but I do think we'll get them. Yep. Harlequin says, is there a way to use way to up the resolution on the fleet viewer. I have access to a 48-inch plotter. I want to print my fleet at poster size, but the res is odd for small fix. Harley, you bring up a great question, and let's talk about that for a minute. So the ships in Fleet Viewer are rendered at 4K. So like if you click on them and put them HD resolution, then what you're essentially getting is a 4K image. You can zoom into it pretty good. But 4K is not print quality. You really need like 8K quality to print. Now, I do posters for giveaways. And the posters I do, I render the ships out at 8K, so they're massive. That way they print really crystal clear. Now, obviously I don't sell the posters because CIG will not allow me to, and I don't want to cross that line. In the same token, I don't want to say I deliberately made Fleet Viewer to where it was going to be hard to print poster size stuff, but I know it's not super easy. So you can do it. You may have some resolution issues. You could up-res with AI. I'm not sure what type of poster you're trying to make. You did just gift 10 tier 1 subs though to this chat. So if you want to reach out to me on Discord, DM me, and I'm sure me and you can work something out so I can repay that favor of gifting those tier 1 subs, which was really awesome of you. So yes, get in contact with me. I'm sure we can work it out. Now there's some ships that are higher res, I think. The Retribution, Pegasus, Bengal, Alisar are all at 6K or above. So, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I do occasionally do poster giveaways. I've done poster giveaways of this image here, which is all the Star Citizen ships to scale. I've also done, where is it? I've also done giveaways of this poster here. This is like the main Hero Fleet Viewer poster. Now, I do have a new version of this that has the Arastra on it. These are, all these ships were done at 8K, so this poster can be printed out huge and like it's ultra crisp resolution. I do give these away occasionally. So yeah, Harley Quinn, if you want to get a hold of me, I'd be happy to shoot you one of those posters. So, okay, let's get back to our topic here. Stand by. I am getting my list back up here. Hold on one second. Where'd it go? Where'd we go? So the Idris event. Yeah, capture the Idris. Circling all back around. Great event, but for a future Star Citizen. I love the concept. I love the idea of the developers getting in there, playing with the players. I do think CIG's got to do something to get away from this, like where it feels like everything's tailor-made for streamers, even inadvertently, because streamers have big audiences. They can flood the servers, identify where they're at, and quickly, and you know, the streamer can then get in there. I don't know how that gets solved, but I think if CIG counters that by having CIG staff-driven ships, but also plenty of NPC-driven ones, just and a lot more of them, they could have alleviated that whole thing. Also, I think it was really weird they did prizes where an entire group had to put the effort in to get aboard the ship and control it, but then you only give the prize away to the person who sat in the pilot seat the longest. That seems very, very counterintuitive to the design of the actual event. So I didn't understand that. I don't support it. But I think the intent of the mission, or sorry, the intent of the event was cool. The idea that you could get developers in there, you're bringing on this big ship, people can go to it, get in a battle. I love that. I thought that was great. It's just sort of wrong time, wrong place right now. Hopefully they improve that in the future. I would like to hope that CIG is learning from these events they're doing. I don't know if they are, but I hope they are. That'll be seen, I guess, if this F7A event, overdrive event, ends up being better than the last. If it ends up being not much different than what they've done, then maybe that's a sign they aren't learning. I don't know. Harley says it's mostly just when you have an 890 and a Nox on the screen at the same time, the Nox shows pixelated. Oh, so, well, let me show you. Let me move these over real quick. I'm going to do something. So I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but just in case you don't, I'm going to spawn an 890. Okay, and then I'll spawn a Nox. Okay, so one thing you have to remember is that if it's a large ship, it comes in, and Starlight can correct me if I'm wrong on this. A large ship will come in, I think anything over 100 meters will come in at HD resolution, right? This HD resolution button here. But a small ship, to keep the resolution good, let me bring in the, you know what, let me bring in the other Nox. A little easier to see. These will come in at a lower resolution because they're so small, you really can't see the resolution issue when it's this small. But if I zoom in, well, is that, well, let me see here. Yeah, I think that came in SD. Yeah, it came in SD resolution. Now, if I take this and scale it up, let me try. Scale it up. You may see some pixelation there, but you can just click on that ship, hit HD, and it should clean it up. Let's see here. Actually, the funny thing is because of the way it does because we scaled this up, it's actually LD. That looks good. That's interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Harley. I think it's just the one thing I would do is make sure you select all the ships and hit HD on them. Your computer needs to be a little beefy, but if you do that, that will bring all the ships up to their highest resolution. And then, yeah, like Starlet said, you really have to kind of zoom in to be able to see the detail anyway at that stage, especially if you're keeping it to the right scale ratio to a ship next to it. So if you want the Nox to be to scale to the 890, that is going to be a little hard to visualize. That's one of the main challenges we encountered when developing the app too, is how do you show these scale changes like that. And it's one of the reasons we added in the ability to click on a ship and individually adjust its size. We never intended to add that feature, but that's why we actually ended up putting it in. Okay, real quick here, let's move on to the next topic. So the next thing that's been discussed is this master mode discussion. It popped up recently, I think, in an ISC, and then Avenger 1, a pretty well-known kind of PvP combat pilot, or PvP combat player, made a video being pretty critical of the current plan CIG has in place for master modes. And then our good buddy Space Tomato did an interview just the other day with Yogi Klatt from CIG and Avenger 1 on it. I think Avenger actually organized the interview, I think. I can't remember how it went down, but regardless, I watched them all. And I know how passionate people can get about this topic. Funny enough, I had a conversation with Triple Helix from PredatorMounts.com. Again, remember, go to PredatorMounts.com, use Star Jump code, get you 5% off of your mounts. But you know, we had a conversation, and I could tell Triple was pretty passionate about you know, this master mode stuff, just thinking that some of the decisions CIG was making were maybe not the right ones. Here's where I landed on all of it. I think all this drama over master modes is happening way too early. Master modes is coming in, and it will have a critical role to play in how ship combat and ship control, you know, how that occurs in the verse. However, it's not all it's not the entire equation. As a matter of fact, I'd relegate it to about 20% of the overall equation. Well, actually, that's not even a fair statement. I would say that, and I'm going to bring up another ship real quick here. Let's go ahead and bring up, let's bring up a fighter. Okay. Let's see here. Where's my F7? There it is. Okay. So, and there's a reason I'm bringing this up here. So, master modes for a small fighter like the Hornet are probably going to be 60% of the overall equation when it comes to ship combat, right? Without a doubt, maybe 50%, somewhere around that regime. For a large ship, like a capital ship, I think it'll be 20% of the overall equation. And let me explain why. Just like people are listing in chat right now, we're missing a lot of other things that will heavily affect combat. And what's going to be problematic is they're going to input master modes. You've got all these PvP content creators, PvP combat streamers who build a community around how the game plays currently, so that when the game does change, they get very vocal, which is problematic in and of itself, because they're building a community and they're building a reputation off a alpha temp gameplay system, which I think is a mistake. But I'm not them, and they're free to do what they want. But what happens is every time a new system, a system that's been long promised by CIG comes in, they get very vocal and complaining about it and dramatic. At the same time, I worry that them getting very vocal and complaining about it is going to push CIG to make concessions on those systems. Some of those systems, as listed here, are things like Quantum Boost, Maelstrom, control surfaces, but let's not forget the biggest one of them all: resource management, engineering gameplay, which will exist to some degree on fighters, or access to repair will not be very prevalent in single seat fighters, because you can't get out of your ship mid combat and fix it. Where on a big ship, a lot of people were talking about uptimes for ships like hammerheads and stuff like that against fighters. But what they're not taking into account is, just if you've played Sea of Thieves or anything like that, if this is a hammerhead and it's being damaged by a fighter, then you're going to have 1 to 2 engineers inside the hammerhead repairing it while it's being damaged. So instead of the hit point marker just falling constantly until the ship blows up, it's going to fall and then climb because of repair. Fall, climb, climb. You know, if the engineers get ahead of the problem. You get what I'm saying? So the uptime on capital ships is going to be massive. It's in some of them, if you and what it might come down to is, if you go out in a hammerhead or a Polaris or anything like that, and you bring a big enough engineering crew, you might damn near be impossible to kill. That's the way I hope it ends up being. I hope the gameplay systems around resource management end up where, if you take on the added headache of bringing more engineers and mechanics on board, bringing more of a crew, more responsibility, then what that gives you is uptime that a fighter or even a group of fighters may not be able to overcome. That's what I think. That's where I hope that goes. Valislav says Yogi was fantastic on the podcast. Yeah, I have. That's also how I walked away with it, or that's how I walked away from it. I kind of just went, I'm glad Yogi's in charge of this and not all the other people that have comments. Not because I think Yogi makes all the best decisions. I don't actually. I think some things with master modes don't make sense to me. But what Yogi can see that we cannot see, and what Avenger 1 can't see, is Yogi can see and talk to the developers that are building things like resource management, flight control surfaces, all that type of stuff. He can also envision things like future weapon systems that we can't envision. We already know that stuff's happened. It's been on the progress tracker, and ships like the Perseus are going to have unique ammo types that aren't currently in the game, like flak, incendiary, stuff like that. So that's my biggest problem with combat PvP content creators right now. Is not what they're doing. I think what they're doing is awesome. It's that they build a reputation, a community, and a play style based off something that isn't real yet. That's the issue. It's the same reason why and I'm glad people do this, but I wouldn't do it. It's the same reason why I'm not going to make a robust series of how to salvage videos when they're not done developing salvage. You get what I'm saying? So some people don't care about that. Some people play the game for Star Citizen now. I back the game for Star Citizen in the future. Now, that doesn't mean the game has to be version 1.0 necessarily. For me, I need the game to be in a non-reset standpoint, which probably is going to be version 1.0 for me. But essentially what that means is they don't do any more resets. We are now in a persistent state. So things we buy and stuff get saved to the back end, and those are logged. Yeah, Valisov says it here, and I agree with that. The PvP community is a very small part of the overall Star Citizen community. I actually do think that is true. Here's what I'll say about that, though, and that goes on to another one of my talking points, which is the whole PvE versus PvP thing, which Yogi kind of brought up and said it's a PvE game that allows PvP. There's a lot of different ways you could say that. Here's the way I look at it, though. If everything in this game is supposed to be systemic, right? They're building this universe that everything has its place in, and everything's supposed to work the way it works, then combat shouldn't have to be, they shouldn't have to build combat. Combat should just be able to emergently exist within the systematic systems that they're building in this verse, right? I know that's kind of a word salad way of saying it, but I don't think every ship needs to be balanced. I don't think there needs to be balance even in combat. There's going to be ships that are just better than other ships. Yeah, he did retract that statement. What's the new statement? Finger says, Yogi also clarified later that PvE and PvE are all designed and focused on equally. Okay, fine. But I think, here's the way I look at it. I don't think they should even focus on this as a PvE or PvP game. They've already stated they're trying to build everything physicalized, everything systemic. If they just build the verse that way, then the PvE and PvP mechanics should manifest themselves naturally, right? Now, here's another big gameplay system that'll massively affect combat. It's Death of a Spaceman. Now, I've had conversations with people just this past week that said, oh, no, Death of a Spaceman is not going to be a big deal. You'll be able to get all your stuff back. Easy. And I'm like, well, maybe. CIG may go that route. But Chris Roberts has also said as recently as, 2 years ago in a letter from the chairman, they went into depth around Death of a Spaceman again, and there's going to be some punishing aspects to it. There's going to be some serious cost effects from it. There's going to be getting your ship back, being able to reclaim your ship is not going to be instant. You're not going to get all your stuff back, so there's going to be a punishment to that. So combat pilots are going to start to go, well, is it worth going out here to harass this player or that player, or should I just save my combat for the moments that are really important? See, I think that actually makes combat more special. Some people would argue with me that it takes the fun out of combat, right? Starlet says, people still want to know how the game will be. will I have to deal with PvPers as a PvP person, for example? If you have to deal with PvP people, then it's not really PvE, is it? Yeah, I agree with you, Starlet, and I think that's part of CIG's communication issues, and I think that's the tricky thing with them even bringing up the PvE versus PvP thing at all. It's because they sort of dance around it depending on who they're talking to, right? So sometimes it's a PvE game with PvP components, sometimes it's PvE, PvP equally. I think they do. Well, Valsoft, you literally just took the words out of my mouth. I think it needs to be developed much like Eve, high sec, medium sec, null sec. All three areas are completely viable to make a living in, do well in, and completely spend 100% of your time. They come with different rewards and different risks and different time investments. So, for example, if you're in high sec space and that's where you're going to operate because you don't want to get into any PvP, then you can pretty much stay there. It might take you a little bit longer to earn money than, say, working in high risk nullsec space or medium security space, but you can still do it. It's still very viable. They've kind of hinted towards that with the base building stuff. Bases that are in high sec are going to have planetary shields that protect them, make them invulnerable. So I think that's how CIG will go, and I think that's the way they need to go. Sorek Gaming says, hey, Sorek, hope you're well. Says, Sea of Thieves is a good example of how crewed ships should work at a very high level. SC will allow for the casual player to enjoy the game while having room for more game. Exactly. Yeah. And as someone who's played a lot of Sea of Thieves, again, a well-crewed hammerhead, I think should be damn near unkillable by small fighters, because you're going to have an engineering team in there working overtime to keep the ship up, or it'll have such a high time to kill time on it that your smaller ships are just going to run out of go juice, so run out of ammo, all that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Or see, Starlet says, I disagree about the risk reward being different in high sec, low sec. High sec can still have high risk PvP. I totally agree. I mean, I just kind of said that off the cuff, but I just mean that, like, what they could do is they really could relegate those bits of space, is where, like, maybe medium sec allows certain types of PvP engagement. Null sec allows open PvP that's open PvP, like an open PvP server in a sense. And then high sec just doesn't allow PvP at all. I think they could do that. There's some gameplay ramifications there, but I could see that being how it plays out personally. I think CIG is going to want to protect people just starting out too. I think CIG is going to want to have systems, and I could see Stanton being one of them, where if a brand new player comes into it, they can get the lay of the land without being attacked at all. So I could see some systems being like that. Maybe Terra system, Bingo says long haul cargo kind of don't have the luxury of staying camped in Terra. Yeah, I mean, I think these are all great questions. It's gonna be hard to know where CIG lands on this. If I had to guess, what I think CIG is going to say is that PvP is allowed anywhere, but they're going to make the cost for PvPers high enough that there really needs to be a reason you're out there doing it. So, and here's what I mean. If you're running a hull C, or let's go bigger, let's go a hull D, right? Fully laden with cargo, I forget what it is, like 20,000 SCU of cargo. You're running that from, Pyro to Magnus. You're kind of a target. You're carrying 20,000 SCU of cargo. I have a hull D. If I'm running a hull D with 20,000 SCU of cargo, I'm probably going to bring some friends. I would definitely hit up Ender, whoever else, and say, hey, you know what? I need you to be in your fighters. I'm going to give you a big chunk of this change, but I need protection. I'm just not going to risk it. I think that is a legitimate PvP target. My issue is the little guy and the Hull A who's just getting started in the game. Should he really have to deal with pirates at that level? I don't know. That I could see how that gets annoying and could turn a lot of players just starting off. I could turn them off. So what I would hope is that CIG makes the cost of combat, right? The danger, the risk, the punishments involved, the law and order system, they make that punishing enough so that the PvPers go, you know what? I'm not going to deal with all that red tape over a Hull A, but that Hull D, I'll risk it. You know what I mean? I'll risk all the pain in the ass stuff that I'm going to have to deal with as a combat pilot. I'll risk it for the Hull D. I'm not going to risk it for the Hull A. It's just not worth it. The rate of return is not there. The big question mark for me though, and I still don't have an answer to, is where does just 1v1 combat dogfighting fall in the verse? I don't really see how it has much of a purpose other than protecting assets. I think CIG feels the same way, and I think Arena Commander is going to be the place for that personally. That's my own personal thing. I don't know if they'll do that, but hey, Victura, hope you're well. Victura, are you, I was just talking about Equinox earlier. Are you going to be at the June 1st Equinox here in Columbus? I assume you are. I will be there. I told Shadowken I want to run a booth. I'm going to have all kinds of cool... you will not be making it. Oh, that sucks, dude. I was hoping to see you. I'm sorry to hear that. But yes, I don't know how they'll... oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, we'll do that. But I don't know how CIG will handle just like dogfighting in the game for fun. The people that love combat. Yeah, maybe it will be bounty hunting, but I think ultimately I see Arena Commander and maybe Simpods playing a role and scratching the combat itch. Again, there's a lot of complex conversations here. I think one of the big takeaways, though, I was a little concerned to hear that Yogi Klatt, and I don't think this was a very good thing to do. He sort of, I forget the exact words in chat. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he said something to the effect of like, yeah, we're not really like factoring in combat stuff at like large and capital ship level yet. And that was like, ugh, like they need to be building a combat model based off all the ships. And the reason I think they need to be careful about not saying stuff like, yeah, we're not really thinking about the capital ships yet, is that, people spend a lot of money on these capital ships based off the idea that they're going to be able to do specific things in them. And when CIG says that they're not factoring them in much yet, that's concerning, especially when we have the Polaris coming into the game this year and the Idris coming into the game this year. They should be thinking about this. Spectral Lawless, hopefully I said that right. Thank you for that follow. Really appreciate it. Hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for that follow. So yeah, I don't know. It's been an interesting conversation this has all popped up, that's popped up recently. I've watched all the videos. Avengers video, there was a few things I agreed with. A lot I did not agree with. A lot of his points that he made, he definitely was passionate about them, and I think he had data to back those points up. I definitely don't think Avenger comes at stuff like unknowledgeable. I mean, he's doing combat all the time, so I think he has a sense of what he's doing, of course. But I guess I was a little dismayed when I hear him going through all this stuff, but then I don't hear him talking about all the other systems that he knows is coming online. It's almost like he thinks that Star Citizen combat is going to be in the bubble it is now. And maybe he did speak to it and I just didn't hear it. That's very possible. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But, yeah, Starlet said it exactly right. He's invested in the existing model and he's put a lot of time and effort into that. And change is going to be problematic. And I've said this, I actually said this to Ender before, is that I always get concerned when I see people make content based off how the game is currently, because you're guaranteeing it's going to be out of date. Um, but that's a risk they take, and it's their content. So, um, but again, I think what Avenger does is good. He's doing his thing. He's taking his opinion. He's drafting it up. He's sending it to the people. It's CIG. They can maybe take some of it, leave some of it, whatever. But ultimately, what I hope is that CIG is taking all the advice, but also taking all the stuff that we don't know about that CIG hopefully does know about internally, and forming a better picture for how to develop combat moving forward. You know what I mean? Yeah, Harley Quinn. I agree with you. I give him credit too. He admitted he likes it. He just said it needs some tweaks. I know one of the big things he wants it to have is just a higher baseline SCM speed, somewhere around the 500 SCM mark. He may be right there. I actually don't know. He could totally be right. I'm not here saying, by the way, that Avenger is wrong. I'm just saying some of the things he was saying, I was like, that doesn't seem right. But I'm also speculating. I'm not really a combat pilot. I won't become a combat pilot. See, here's the thing. I played a lot of DCS. I've done a lot of air combat in Arma. I've done a lot of air combat in other games. Air combat was my thing for a long time. I've been rocking HOTAS since back in the 90s, okay? I installed Microsoft Flight Simulator 95 when it came on 10 floppy disks, okay? So I've been there from the beginning in that regard. I have not invested in Star Citizenship combat because I think it's still too rudimentary. I think it will be great, but it's too rudimentary for me to waste my time with becoming good at right now. Okay, let's say here. The next thing I wanted to talk about was something Yogi said in that chat, and I'd love to hear what other people's opinion is on this. I know Starlet had an opinion on this the other day when I talked about it, and I thought her opinion was as with all Starlet's opinions, I think Starlet, you always bring a really good perspective to things sometimes. It usually come at something from a different angle than I do, but then after I think about it for a while, I go, yeah, I actually totally see what Starlet means there. But Yogi said something interesting during the interview. He said that it was kind of an offhanded comment, but he said that they're not supposed to call the backers anymore. They're supposed to call them the players. I thought that was really interesting because we're moving into an era this year where it's very likely, based off what we know, that Squadron 42 possibly could get a release date later this year. I didn't say release this year. I just said get a release date sometime later this year. Maybe that release date is for 2025 or whatever, but we know Squadron's coming. There's been a lot of clues besides what was said at CitizenCon to hint to that. But we also have heard more and more about Star Citizen 1.0. We know that all the Squadron features are moving into Star Citizen 3.2.3, or a lot of them. We know that 4.0 is coming with server meshing Pyro. So it sort of feels like CIG's starting to realize that as they get closer to a shippable product, a shippable 1.0 product, that they've almost got to get out from under the backers. Backers, as the name implies, has connotation to it, right? We're financial backers. So there's almost like promises were made, promises need to be kept sort of thing. And I almost wonder if the pivot to players internally, maybe that's an order from the board, but that shift in language is maybe sort of so that CIG can get out from under some of those commitments, not in a malicious way. Some of those commitments were made years ago and have probably changed, but to get out from under some of that responsibility so that they can be a more public-facing company to new players and new markets out there and properly market the games. Hypnotech, thank you for that follow. Just sent the Javelin overhead. Awesome. Really appreciate it. My initial thought when I heard that was like, nope, I am a backer. I've sunk a ton of money into this game. I'm calling myself a backer. They owe me certain things based off the money I've backed with. That was kind of my initial thought. And then Starlet, Starlet, I forget what your opinion was, but feel free to drop it in there. Starlet came at it from a different angle. More I got to thinking about it, I was like, you know what, you're very right, and I actually see why a communication like that would come in from, from high up at CIG, where like I'm just going to change the visual here for a second. This kind of like let's call them players thing, just to get out from under that. That could be a sign, though. Starlet says players play the existing game and don't have an investor mindset or expectation. Exactly. That's great. Yeah. So there's another way to read into that too. And you're kind of saying it there, Starlet. But what you're saying is players play the existing game. I think CIG is trying to also position themselves to be in a place where they get to a 1.0 Star Citizen, because at that point we then are players of the game. We are definitely no longer backers. So is this shift in language a very, is that a little bit of a clue that we're definitely heading down a Star Citizen 1.0 path? I don't know. I still think that we're 2 years away from a Star Citizen 1.0 at the earliest. At the earliest. But I do think they could get there quicker than we think. And here's how I think about that. Once server meshing is in, not dynamic, static. If they can get static server meshing working, we know they've been testing 400 players in a server on Evocati. If they can even get 400 players in a server, or shard or whatever, static server meshing running, get a lot of the Squadron 42 features over, like star map, HUD, mini map, all that stuff. Get in one more big gameplay system like resource management. Get in a few more space systems. We have Stanton. We know Pyro's pretty much done. I've heard things about Nyx. I've heard things that Nyx is farther along than a lot of people think. We know Odin has been well developed for Squadron 42. There's also hints that maybe Vega is possibly had work done, or Magnus or Terra. We know some of those have been touched. There was early work done on Terra years and years ago. Who knows? But it wouldn't take long for them to have 4 systems, possibly 5. 2 years from now, that could all come together. I think it's a long shot. I'm not too drunk on hopium. This is a giant glass of hopium right here. But it could be. It could be. If static server meshing goes well, if it goes well, I could see that being the case. But I just thought that line stuck out to me and made me think that quite possibly things are changing a little bit. Like CIG starting to get off of the, hey, we're a Kickstarter backer focused alpha game mindset, and starting to position themselves in a, hey, we shipped Squadron 42. We're on the path to Star Citizen 1.0. We're going into beta for Star Citizen. We now have players kind of mindset, right? It just, I don't know. It was interesting to hear that. I almost wonder if there's a little bit of a perspective shift going on internally at CIG, which is good. That's a good thing. I think they need to get into a release mindset. They need to get a game out. So anyway, let's talk about another thing here I had on my list. The server meshing test that went on in Evocati, and then most recently they did a static server mesh test with the jump gates activated. First off, I made a post on Twitter saying how congratulating CIG and the backers that have stuck around for so long. This is an achievement for Star Citizen. You could argue they should have got to this place years ago. You could argue that this doesn't mean anything in terms of the game getting done any faster. But putting those things aside, I think it's hard not to say this was an achievement. This was a milestone that was crossed. It needed to be crossed. It was exciting to see. I was excited for the Evocati players to be able to test it. And again, I'm not an Evocati. So again, whenever a lot of times people will ask me, hey, are you picking up any new ships at Invictus or IAE or whatever? I only put money into the game when CIG crosses milestones I feel are worthy of an investment. That's how I've done it from the very, very beginning. Hey, there's Ender. Salute to you, buddy. Ender is currently working, but we wish him well. I was just talking about you earlier, Ender. But regardless, I only put money into the game when a milestone's been crossed. And the more and more milestones I cross, the more and more money I sink into the game. So this was definitely a milestone server meshing test with jump gates. Now, obviously the jump gate stuff was very gray box, had no textures, had no visual effects running. I think that's fine. They're just testing the jump gates. Or jump points, I guess we should say. I don't see no damn gates, actually. That's my big question for CIG is where did the jump gates go? And are we still going to have jump gates? Personally, I think the little glowing wormhole singularity, I think it's kind of boring. I really wish the jump gates were back in. Does anyone agree with me on that? The original gates, and if you haven't seen those, I can show you kind of what they look like. How do we spell that? Yeah, here we go. Gotta zoom out. So yeah, the jump gates, they do kind of look like this. They're these big, giant, circular, gate systems. And the way I read into it from CIG was that these are supposed to stabilize those jump points, right? Especially like unstable jump points. But we haven't seen them. We saw them in that 2019 CitizenCon demo, but we didn't see anything after that. It's like they disappeared. And I know that they talked about them naturally occurring without the gates, but I think the gates are supposed to stabilize the jump points that are unstable. So, or maybe it was or maybe I read that they will, the gates are actually able to make certain jump points larger so bigger ships can get through. I forget. But either way, I don't know. I thought the gates were just a much more epic thing. I think it'd be a lot cooler to go through the gates than just the jump point. Personally, obviously, CIG, I guess, disagrees with me on that. So, let's see here. Maybe they want the jump points working first and they can build the structures. Yeah, and they have, if you haven't seen it, let me look here. They have showed off, let me find it here. Not only in that demo, but they've showed off the jump gates in a behind the scenes thing. Let me see if I can find it here. I used to have it. Yeah, I can't find it anymore. But they did a behind the scenes of them working on the jump gates. I mean, they put a lot of work into them. So when I did this jump gate for Fleet Viewer or for the Aegis cinematic, the guy at CIG who built the jump gates, who modeled them, he reached out to me and was like, oh, you got really close on them. So, but anyways, it was very exciting to see CIG doing the server meshing testing with the jump gates installed. Look, me and Ender talk a lot about the future of the game, what the game will be like in a couple years from now. And one thing me and him have said several times is we look forward to that day when we can be in a ship together with a crew, leave Stanton, go through that jump gate, or leave Pyro, go through a jump gate, go to some system, do reconnaissance surveying on a moon, a planet, find our little areas, put down our land claim, and start building our base. You know what I mean? Um, we talk about that even frequently. And that's sort of the dream for me for Star Citizen. And that's not something you're just going to keep doing over and over again, building bases. It's probably going to be something that happens very infrequently. But the idea, the whole fantasy of Star Citizen for me is being able to get in a ship with my friends, travel somewhere in a big huge universe, find my little island, right, my little piece of the pie, and stake my claim. That's the goal for me. All the other stuff is just a means to an end to make that happen. Whether I'm doing salvage or mining, or we're doing bounty hunting runs, or we're doing marketplace gameplay, whatever it is, all that just facilitates that fantasy. And you know, everyone has a different fantasy for what they want Star Citizen to be, but that's mine. So, see here. Do we have any more questions here? Valislav says, questions. Do you have any opinions on what they're going to do about downtime with all the travel? Well, I don't know. I think it'll have a lot to do with resource management and keeping your ship running okay during those periods of time. Although I think some downtime during travel is going to be good. You can walk around your ship, take care of hygiene, play mini games, get in your sim pod, go do a manifest check on your cargo, whatever. I did see that someone did a test though in Ivacati where they did a run from one end of Pyro to the other. They did it in a Mercury Star Runner, and I think they had a pretty good quantum drive, and it took them 30 minutes to get across the system. I'm not sure what it is for Stanton, but obviously Pyro isn't the biggest system either. So I think travel time will be a significant thing, but hopefully there'll be enough to do resource management wise and other to-dos, hygiene, eating, all that stuff that keeps us busy. You know, Ender just brought up, me and Ender talked more in depth recently about Star Jump, the org. So for those of you that don't know, Star Jump originally, the genesis of Star Jump wasn't technically a content creation thing. It was an org in the game, an RP based org, but it's always been sort of on ice just because the game isn't there yet. But with so many things coming into Star Citizen this year, me and Ender started seriously talking about the org and what we need to do to get it into a place where we can really start propping it up, doing org things, all that. So there's been a lot of talk going on to that. I got some more things to chat with him about it, but we have some big kind of grand plans for it. So yeah, more on that. But I really want the Star Jump org to kind of activate this year. Let's see here. Any more questions? So yeah, anyways, congratulations to CIG on the jump gates and server meshing. I just hope they bring the actual jump gates back. I think that would be really cool. Other than that, we talked about the Idris event, the issues with that. Again, thought it was a good event in terms of what they're trying to do. I just think it was the wrong time. I think that type of event was something you put in Star Citizen when it's 1.0 and everything's in place. It's just the wrong time for it. And the rewards were wrong and all that. So, we talked about master modes and all my thinking on that. Again, I think let's all not freak out about master modes yet. There's a lot of other critical systems that need to go into the game to round out what combat will be. And obviously that has roll-on effects to PvP. We talked about the PvE versus PvP thing in Star Citizen. I personally think it's a diegetic thing that is just systemic. From the nature of them building the bursts, there'll be PvE stuff and PvP stuff, and hopefully the verse is big enough that you can actively avoid stuff if you want to. I also think scanning will play a big role in being able to avoid combat if you want to avoid it. And that's something I think CIG really needs to get to. we need to be able to do scans of an area, see that there's possibly hostile players. So if I see a bunch, like 3 or 4 players in close formation in combat ships, and I'm in a hull B, I'm going to probably avoid that area. So we need to be able to scan better. We need to be able to know what we're going into. Yeah, VG says star map may play into that. Exactly. So yeah, PvE versus PvP, obviously a lot of controversy there. I think a lot of people have different views. We talked about that whole thing that Yogi said about backers not being called backers internally anymore. They're just being referred to as players, and what that could possibly mean. And then obviously server meshing and jump gates. So yeah, these were just a lot of the topics that came up recently, and I wanted to kind of, I've been asked about them, so I wanted to get out there and give my point of view, let you know about the Banu Merchantman's Shipyard episode. Again, it is been done. It's been done for months, actually. I just need to do new audio for it. New audio has been recorded, just needs to be placed in. I'm hoping into next week. I will, again, like I said, I have another Shipyard episode after that. Now that one hasn't been edited or anything. It's just parts and pieces. Maybe that's something Ender gets in on with me, depending on his workload. We'll see. But anyway, that's it, I think. Any other questions for me? Anything else anyone wants to ask? Hopefully you're all enjoying all the stuff that is seemingly coming to Star Citizen. Supposedly, by the way, tomorrow, Inside Star Citizen is going to be all about the new character creator. Apparently Xylo and other people have been going around telling some streamers and stuff to definitely watch it. It's going to be a big one, and apparently there's going to be some amazing stuff shown. So Zarek says, Graham, what is the main interest of Starjump org? Base builders, explorers, industrialists. So I think we look at we look at Starjump as kind of like, I think, like a company that's like a conglomerate where they've got a lot of think of like a big company like GE that has its hands in a lot of pies, right? They do defense stuff. But GE makes the biggest Gatling gun ever made, but they also make light bulbs. There's a lot of stuff there, and I think that's what you'll see with Starjump. We'll reveal it in a better way, but we have it sort of broken up by services, right? So there's base building services, security and defense services, industrial services. There's a lot of that, and it'll be broken up a little bit. Part of the reason we'll do that too with the org is to have our org members have the maximum amount of flexibility in the type of gameplay loops they're involved in. What we're not going to be is like, there'll definitely be a medical services what you won't see is like we're a pirate org. We're lawfully good org that has a bunch of different services components. Part of it, we've mapped them all out. So we kind of mapped all of that out. We'll reveal it soon. We're kind of getting the website built and everything for it. So we still have to do some discussions and figure some stuff out, but we've already worked out the rank and hierarchy system and how that's all going to function. And we'll be able to start opening up, actual recruitment. Zarek says, lawfully good. Any of you guys drug trade? It's a type of thing, Zarek, that as long as it's RP'd properly, it would fit in. Me and Ender are both big RPers. So while the company wouldn't be a publicly drug trading company, obviously, that doesn't mean that certain members of the org couldn't be doing that in a shadowy back end or something, as long as the RP supported it and there was good RP surrounding it. I think it's, if it can happen in the world, if it can actually happen in real life, then as long as you RP it properly, it should be able to happen in game world. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean like the leadership of the org wouldn't come down on you if they found out about it, even if you were RPing it well. Ender says it perfectly. There's definitely room for rogue elements, as long as it, first off, doesn't hurt the company, doesn't hurt the org, but then also, again, as long as it's RP'd properly, you know what I mean? And you do it the right way. So, again, I think what you'll see from me and Ender from an org standpoint is RP is king. So if you have a proper story built, well thought out, you're developing it well, and all that, then a lot of we're open to a lot of ideas. And again, we're still mapping out some of that. So, so it says, I would like to know what the RP means by example sometime. Yeah, we'll have to show you, Starlet. And to be honest with you, Starlet, that's a great question. Sometimes RP means different things in different games. So when me and Ender had our Milsim group in Arma 3, while our characters didn't have like names and backstories and all that, we weren't role playing it like that. We were playing it from a Milsim standpoint. So we were following, in rules of engagement. We were using radio speak. We were playing it as if it was real. So in that regard, it was still RP because we were playing that role, right? It was just a different type of RP. RP in World of Warcraft is a little bit different from that. So it'll be interesting to see how it manifests in Star Citizen. Yeah, yes, Valisoft. That's exactly. Everyone will have to speak in early Middle English. Anything else before I head off for the evening? Just kind of a short stream, just making sure my streaming stuff still works. Let's see here. Okay. Yes. Last thing I'll say, it does look like this overdrive event will probably happen this weekend as long as CIG's testing goes good. With the overdrive event, all signs and some of the game files we looked into point to the F7A Mark II coming into the game. It actually looks like there could be some changes to the Hornet series as well, just the actual original variants. A little bit unsure about that, but VMXEO has found the files, the actual models for the F7A civilian variant Mark II. It looks really cool. So if that ship goes on sale, we'll be adding that to Fleet Viewer. As I told you before, we're making a lot of Fleet Viewer updates that will probably go live next week to a lot of ships. So if you've ever been visualizing some of those ships in Fleet Viewer, 300 series, 100 series, Avenger series, Kraken, Galaxy, Pioneer, and the Idris cutaways, all that should be coming into Fleet Viewer next week. We're just finishing up a few things. Okay, that's about it. VG, we don't really know. We just know there's an overdrive event coming. Zarek Masters, yes, we're delivering some updates to Fleet Viewer to make some of the ships look better. The Kraken is one of the ships that's getting a visual update. And the new model looks killer. Looks really good. So yeah. Quinn says, is the Mark II a new ship or a rework of the current, like the Connie versions have been? So the Mark II is the current F7A Mark II, but there's a civilian variant now. There could be some updates to the original Hornets, but they might be just like gold standard changes. It does look like the F7A got sort of a gold standard pass too, at least from what it looks like. So don't quote me on that, but it could be. That could be. I mean, the Hornet's one of the oldest ships in the game, actually. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Mark II. If the event happens and we can get our hands on it, I definitely want it. One of the skins for the Mark II is like a black and bronze. It looks awesome. I really want it. I hope it's in the event. So, okay, everyone, that's going to be about it. I hope you are all well. I'm excited. Me and Ender are going to get into some Arma 3 this weekend. It's been a while. Ender, if you're still up for some Arma 3, buddy, we will get some shooting and looting done. For the rest of you, Starjump's still alive. We hope you're all well. I know Starlet and VMXEO are in chat, as well as Ender. We all give you our love. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for chilling with us. We are still around. Go visit our YouTube channel. Go visit our Twitter. Follow us on there. Follow the YouTube channel. Go on Fleet Viewer. Check us out there. Follow this Twitch channel if you would, please, if you haven't already. Go give Ender's channel a follow as well. And did that go through? Why is it? Actually, standby. Yeah, let me put these in here. Go check out all the stuff here I'm posting. If you haven't followed us there, please do. We really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, everyone. I hope you stay well, stay positive. It's going to be a really cool year for Star Citizen. I mean, it looks like we got a lot of great stuff coming. It was just great to connect with everybody. Griff, I hope you're well, buddy. Stay good. Would love to get back on Soul Citizen soon. I know I had to cancel on the last episode you had me scheduled for. But my life is starting to return back to normal. So thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon. Let's see. Do I have anyone? Stand by. Stand by. Let's see. Hold on one second, everybody. Stand by. Stand by. I'm going to push you all over to our good friend, Maiden. Please go give her a little bit of Star Jump love. And I will see you all soon. Stay good. I'm going to go ahead and initiate that now. Everyone, take it easy. Thank you, everyone on YouTube, for hanging out as well.